This is the day that the Lord has made. I'm gonna rejoice and be glad in it. Yes, I will. Yes, I will. Yes, I will. So I woke up to the summer shining through. Calling all my friends asking what's the move. Feeling a little different, I'm on something new. Today. I ain't gonna let no clouds get in my way. The only road I'm walking is the one I paved. Catch me sitting in the sun, no time for shade. Today. Sing it right here, say, ooh, this is the day that the Lord has made. And I ain't gonna let it slip away. I'm gonna be joyful. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I'm gonna be joyful. Today, I'm gonna be joyful. Ooh, I'm gonna be joyful. I got the feeling that you get when you get new kicks. Bell ringing on the last day of senior year. High-fiving everybody, but we out of here. Say, today. Oh, so fast, life comes and goes. Make it last, best slow you roll. They don't take it as a choice, but you gotta know that. Today. Sing it right here, say, hey, this is the day that the Lord has made. And I ain't gonna let it slip away. I'm gonna be joyful. Ooh, I'm gonna be joyful. Today, I'm gonna be joyful. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I'm gonna be joyful. Yeah. Sing it. I got the joy down in my heart, down in my heart, down in my heart. I got the joy down in my heart, down in my heart. You know, we're singing where you are. I got the joy down in my heart, down in my heart, down in my heart. I got the joy down in my heart, down in my heart. Now sing it again. I got the joy. Say down in my heart, down in my heart. Said the world can't take it away. No. Down in my heart. Said the world didn't give it and the world can't take it away, no. Said the world didn't give it and the world can't take it away, no. Oh God. Holy, only you are holy, only you are worthy of all praise. And worthy, only you are worthy, only you're deserving of all praise. Faithful you are, and faithful you've been. New every morning is your mercies for me. You are my God, yeah, and you are my friend. Even in the dark, you'll be here with me. So I'll sing, holy, only you are holy, only you are worthy of all praise. Jesus, worthy, only you are worthy. Only you deserving of all praise. Sing it again, you are holy. Only you are holy. Only you are worthy of all praise. From the rising of the sun to the setting of the same.
Hi, hello everyone. This is Pastor Richard McNeil here. I'm here at the congregation Etz Chaim here in Marietta, Georgia. It's a beautiful Jewish temple. We're about to go inside, but before we do, listen, it's our time of worship. It's our time of celebrating. We will now have our special song, after which I invite you, come with me. We're going to go inside. We're going to have a beautiful tour and an intimate conversation. But before we get into all that, this is your moment. Take your time to share, like, share, and distribute this message. We want everyone to get in on this episode. So take your time right now, click share, whether you're watching via Facebook, via YouTube, share, subscribe if you haven't already, like and follow our page if you haven't already. This is your moment to please, let's share the gospel, let's spread the word, as many people need to know about who the temple really is. All right? God bless you all.
I'll never be more loved than I am right now. Wasn't holding you up, so there's nothing I can do to let you down. It doesn't take a trophy to make you proud. I'll never be more loved than I am right now. You are Jireh, you are enough. Jireh, you are enough. And I will be content in every circumstance. You are Jireh, you are enough. Going through a storm, but I won't go down. I hear your voice carried in the rhythm of the wind to call me out. You would cross an ocean so I wouldn't drown. You've never been closer than you are right now. You are Jireh, you are enough. Jireh, you are enough. And I will be content in every circumstance. You are Jireh, you are enough. Forever enough, always enough. You are more than enough, oh yeah. Forever enough, always enough. You are more than enough. I'm already loved, I'm already chosen. I know who I am, I know what you've spoken. I'm already loved more than I could imagine, and that is enough. You are Jireh, you are enough. Jireh, you are enough. And I will be content in every circumstance. You are Jireh, you are enough. Jireh, you are enough. Jireh, you are enough. And I will be content in every circumstance. You are Jireh, you are enough.
I am in one of the most beautiful modern day temples ever. I'm joined by Rabbi. Matter of fact, Rabbi, would you please come on by? Of course. I'd love for everyone to see who has been a gracious host to me, showing me around, and giving me this privilege of seeing this beautiful, beautiful temple. As we look at the interior of this temple, straight ahead, this It's a symbol representing the Shekinah glory, the light of the presence of God in the most holy place. There at what would be our modern day pulpit, that's the area where the person would speak, similar to how God would speak to Moses from that mercy seat between the two angels. Here are murals representing the various festivals or feast days that are celebrated by the Jews. Over on this wall, this is a memorial of all the Jews who were persecuted, who have died, especially those during the Holocaust. This is their memorial wall. Here we have a symbol to the tree of life. Followed by here, now we have the Torah. It is kept in what is commonly called the Ark. And here he's removing the outer covering for the Torah. The Torah are the first 5 books of the Old Testament written in Hebrew. These words would be sung, not merely read. No, they'll be sung at each service by the rabbi and those who are leading out.
We are a Jewish congregation of about 600 families, and catering to people at all ages and stages, as far as not just life cycle events, but really regular services. We have regular worship services every evening and every night in our community, as well as Sabbath services, and really coming together in fellowship to eat together and pray together and learn together and sharing what we call each other's always and joys. Always meaning the sorrows of life, and the joys meaning the good times in life together.
All right. Listen, now, a few things that you mentioned there. You said 600 families. Yes. Not just 600 individual, but you kind of based on a family. That's a lot.
Yes, although I will tell you, most Jews don't come to synagogue every Shabbat. So I know there are these big churches around the area where you'll have like several thousand people. We roughly get about 120 people on Shabbat morning, but on the High Holy Days, we'll end up with about, 2,000 individuals coming for the High Holy Days.
Wow. And you stated that, so you have services all throughout the week.
Correct.
Not only on Sabbaths, but also in the evenings and
That
so
is
forth?
correct, yes. So we have services in our morning's minyan in the mornings, and we have in our evenings as well. And,
so the morning and even oblation kind of practice from the Old Testament all the way
That's
through?
exactly right, yes. So we joke in the Jewish world, we say it's just the Testament. Right? It's not all for us. But in our Torah, yes, each of our patriarchs traditionally prayed one service, Abraham the morning, Isaac the afternoon, and Jacob the evening. So of course, our matriarchs by association as well.
Yes.
We do those 3 prayer services. That's correct.
Wow. What is the Jewish perspective concerning temples or places of gathering for worship?
Yes. So I would say, as I was telling you earlier, that really in some ways the departure of Judaism and Christianity from one another begins with the fact that Judaism is a rabbinic religion. Right. So while there's much of a focus in the Old Testament or in the Bible and in Kings, etc., of the building of the temples, within the Jewish faith and the Jewish religion, that ultimately was replaced by a synagogue. Synagogue is sort of the successor to the temples of old. Although we know that synagogues existed locally in communities throughout Judea in those days, right? And
yes.
that Israelites, although in the Torah it says, of course, that they would all pilgrimage locally to Jerusalem for festivals. I mean, realistically, people were not traveling hundreds of miles all the time. So they would put up essentially these local shrines everywhere. Okay. Those would go on to become what are today modern synagogues. So within those communities. So, whereas Christianity, as I understand it, continued on with the New Testament, Judaism continues on with the words of our rabbinic sages. I like to joke that 2 of our most famous sages, Hillel and Shammai, were born roughly around what is the year 0. So a lot of the times when they're referring to the Pharisees, they're actually talking about rabbis, right? They're talking about, and that's sort of our tradition that we continue with.
How are temples or synagogues now? How do they relate to the actual believer now? How do they relate with is it just seen just as a building where we worship, or is there any how can I put it? Is there any significance or relevance to say, no, we meet there, or we need to meet there, or can we just meet and gather wherever?
Yeah, so Jews believe that you can meet, pray, gather anywhere. I can tell you one of my most impactful prayer experiences was on a teen tour at the Grand Canyon many years ago. And, look, you see all God's majesty in front of you. And
Yes.
and everybody has these different intelligences for where we connect to God and see God in those spaces. But synagogues are viewed as the natural, organic meeting place for Jews today. And I would say, just to jump back for a moment, it's interesting as Jews, we do mourn the destruction of those temples in Jerusalem, the ones that are in the Old Testament. We even have a holiday in the summer. It's a major fast day that a lot of Jews don't necessarily know about, but it's called Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av means the 9th day of the Hebrew month of Av, when traditionally the first temple was destroyed by the Romans in 586 before the Common Era,
Right.
by the Babylonians in 586, and then the Romans in 70 of the Common Era. The fact that I remember those dates should tell you that it's significant,
Yes,
right? Because I'm not a history reader of dates, so we do continue to mourn their destruction while at the same time acknowledging the place of synagogues as their rightful successor. I wouldn't say that synagogues themselves necessarily take the place of temples, but much of the ritual that we did in those temples find their way into Jewish prayer services and prayer rites today.
Really?
So much of the liturgy that we continue to say was liturgy that was used in the temple in Jerusalem. One of our services that we do on Shabbat is called Musaf. Musaf means extra or additional. And it's literally just a repeat almost, practically, not verbatim, but pretty close to what we did earlier that day. And so the question is, other than making services a heck of a lot longer, why would you add this extra piece on?
Yes.
Well, it's because in the temple in Jerusalem, there was an extra service done on the Sabbath. And so we reenact that temple ritual through our worship and through our services. So in many ways, while synagogues are important for places that are gathering places for Jews, they take on a different meaning than perhaps the temple of old would have been. There's still that gathering and that feeling of community.
Yes.
But it's not necessarily the same as far as the ritual and the worship and, I don't know how quickly we're all yearning for a return to animal sacrifice. It may not be on our list.
Yeah, because especially when you think of all those rituals, the sprinkle of the blood, it was a very gruesome. Sure, it did not smell good.
Yeah.
So that I know that practice, that side of it, definitely don't want to go back to that. Now for the Jew today, now you mentioned earlier that there are several types of Jews.
Yes.
And how the various types of Jews would look or consider the temple in a different way, even call it a different thing.
Yeah, it is fascinating among the different denominations of Judaism. I know in Christianity there are many. In Judaism, there's really just three.
Right.
Reform Jews tend to refer to their synagogues as temples. Conservative Jews often say synagogue or shul, which is the Germanic Hebrew, they call it Yiddish as the language. Shul, which means a synagogue, basically, or a place to learn and to study. And Orthodox Jews often say shul as well. So I think part of it may just be, I think we all view it as a temple. We might all call it a temple in common parlance, but interestingly, among denominations, those differences do exist.
All right.
Yeah.
Now I would love to hear a little bit now concerning as far as the theology of the temple, right? In 2 Samuel chapter 7, where there's a conversation that's happening there with the prophet and David, and concerning the building of a new temple. And then but the Lord makes a promise to him, and I would love to hear what is your Jewish understanding of that, as far as are Jews still looking and expecting anticipating, if you will, a third temple.
Yes.
So I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a tension that we all continue to live with. And let me just throw one other example at you. The laws of keeping kosher, which many Jews continue to practice, are really based on temple rituals. I mean, the fact that the animal was killed in a certain way, we're just, painless, the blood spilled. As gruesome as it sounds, I mean, we don't like to think of the modern meat industry that way, the meat that we eat. But just go to any slaughterhouse. Not that you need to put this on video, but and you will see it's not all that different from the reality of how it takes place. But as far as how we understand that promise, yes, in traditional Jewish theology, there's sort of many approaches to it. I would say in traditional Orthodox theology, yes, there is a yearning for the third temple in Jerusalem to be rebuilt, as was promised to King David, right? That then the Messiah would come from the line of King David, and when we understand the Messiah would come, because we believe the Messiah has not come yet, a big theological difference, right? So we believe that when the Messiah comes in the future, or a messianic era happens, that there will be a rebuilding of the third temple.
The third temple. So your understanding is, I just want to make sure this is clear.
Yeah.
So there is an anticipation for a new temple to be built and erected. Now this temple is a physical, it's not just figurative. This is a physical temple, a place where God's people will gather, God's children will gather. Now the location of it, is it the understanding of it being in Jerusalem, modern day Jerusalem today, or somewhere else?
So let me take a step back and say that, I think that again, your understanding of the third temple also depends on your theology and your denomination. So
True.
I will tell you, as a conservative rabbi, I view the state of Israel as the third temple. I think
the entire
country. And I think we're rebuilding it right now. And that's what's so exciting to see, is when we talk about a rebuilt Jerusalem, and yes, everybody understands it to be Jerusalem as the place. That would be, to me, I look at the city and you see, if you've ever been to Israel, you see, skyscrapers going up, and you see building and houses and ingathering of exiles from all over the Jewish world, right? When Jewish communities are unsafe in different places, and let's be clear, we're seeing that in the Ukraine right now as we speak. There are Ukrainian refugees who are traveling to Israel, right? And that's their refuge, right?
So literally, the way that it's a positive perspective that is seen on it, where everyone is coming from the various diaspora
communities.
Yeah, they're all coming, and it's basically a big reuniting all.
Right. So that would be my theological notion. Now, if you asked an Orthodox Jew, they would say, "Oh no, we're talking about a real temple that will be built in Jerusalem." You might have an Orthodox rabbi who would say, famously Rav Kook, who was the first chief rabbi of Israel, who said, who was also a vegetarian, who said, "Well, hold on, we're only bringing back the grain offerings. We're not going to do anything of none of the animal stuff, right?" But that being said, I think that yes, you're talking. I mean, it depends on your theology and your approach to the end of all those different pieces. Like Christians, Jews have people forget that we're not monolithic. We have lots of different views and denominations and different perspectives on things.
True, and it's interesting to hear this perspective, and also the variety that exists even amongst Jews, right? Now, you would consider yourself, I believe you stated earlier, conservative.
Yes, I'm a conservative Jew.
Conservative,
which is roughly about 18% of the Jewish community.
Only 18?
Yes,
okay.
Most Jews are Reformed Jews make about 35%, conservative Jews make about 18%, Orthodox Jews make about 10%. The biggest group, like reflecting American society, are the nuns, N-O-N-E-S. Not the nuns with the habits, right? Are people who may be Jewish very publicly. I like to use John Stewart as a good example. Everybody knows John Stewart. He probably hasn't set foot in a synagogue since his bar mitzvah, if that even. So there's a lot of people. So theologically, yes, there's people who just don't do anything, or just Jewish culturally, or through familial ties. But that's about it.
All right, and so you mentioned earlier concerning the Messiah.
Yeah.
All right, the coming of the Messiah. So what is your understanding concerning the coming of the Messiah? Is it that he came already in Jesus Christ, or that he has the actual Messiah has not come as yet? How does that in relation to the temple?
So just to clarify, the fundamental difference between Judaism and Christianity theologically is that we don't believe that Jesus was the Messiah. I know that can be hard for Christians to understand. We certainly think he was a rabbi, right? He was certainly preaching, and if you look at some of his sermons, they're very similar, in fact, as I was pointing out, to many of the sermons from the year zero, right, that were being given by rabbis and different Pharisees of the time period. He wasn't the only one preaching love and tolerance to your neighbor. There were lots of rabbis doing that. So the general Jewish belief is that the Messiah has not come yet. When the Messiah comes, the world will be perfect, right? And we will have a third temple, and there will be peace, and that will all be ushered in. So that is just that's a key theological difference, I would say.
Okay.
That's always been my understanding.
And now, especially with that understanding, I believe that there are also Messianic Jews as well. What area would they be considered Orthodox? No, they'll be different
So,
from Orthodox, right?
so actually, Messianic Jews are not considered Jews by the Jewish community. They may have Jewish familial ties, like they may have family members who are Jews and connections.
Okay.
But in general, what is called Jews for Jesus was actually founded as a group in its origins to convert Jews to Christianity, to bring them over. It was really founded as a proselytizing group. Which should tell you everything you need to know, because as Jews we don't proselytize. We're non-proselytizing faith, so we don't go out and seek converts or anything like that. In fact, according to tradition, when someone wants to convert to Judaism, you're supposed to send them away 3 times because you want to make sure that they're very sincere in their belief or their commitment. I don't do that. I mean, generally we talk it through and I make sure they're serious about it. I mean, I don't symbolically send them out of my office 3 times, but you know, the approach to this is, I would just say that no, Jews for Jesus are not considered, at least in, you know, theologically Jewish, because once you've accepted Jesus as your Lord and Savior,
right,
you're a Christian by definition. Then you believe in Jesus Christ, right? So that would be that is the belief held by Jews all across the spectrum. That is one thing we all are certainly agree on. Yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So that
doesn't mean as people they're not lovely people.
Right. Yeah,
it just means from a theological perspective that we don't consider them.
Right.
They're not practicing Judaism because they are, in essence, believing that Jesus is the Messiah.
So all right. So theologically, Jews in general, when it comes to Jesus, they recognize him as a rabbi, as a teacher.
Perhaps
correct?
A historical rabbi, from a historical perspective. So
okay,
we're not studying the New Testament to read what Jesus is writing. No, we're not.
Okay.
But was he perhaps a member of that, you know, Pharisaic clan, giving sermons, teaching, evangelizing, just like the rest of us? Yeah, of course. In that time period, there were many, historically around the year 0, there were many different Jewish sects around
right,
Jerusalem in that time period.
Mm-hmm.
There were the Essenes, there were the Sadducees, there were the Pharisees, there were
yes,
lots of these different groups. So would I say that he's perhaps was a teacher of Torah of some way? Yeah, I think a lot of what he's saying, for what it's worth, is what a lot of Jews believe.
right. And he himself was also a Jew of the Jewish
family.
family.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. He was a Jew. Absolutely.
So
yeah.
his words, his teaching, who he is, it's not denied or rejected per se.
It's the Messianism. It's the Messianism.
Okay, so it's specifically concerning whether or not he is the Messiah. That is the part where that is what would separate.
Yeah.
Separate.
That is the separation.
That is the separation, majorly. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the separating would be his claims to be divine, the Messiah, the Son of God. Separate, because Christians would believe and say, yes, we believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, but the Jew would say, no, we don't believe he's the Messiah. Right. We're still waiting for the Messiah.
That's it.
And when the
Messiah comes, we will have a third temple.
We will have specifically the third temple, which would then fulfill the promise of 2 Samuel 7.
Yes, what we call the land and seed promise, or whatever it is. Yes, that David will have his line, right, and that things will go forward. Yes, 2 Samuel 7. I had to learn that in rabbinical school too. 2 Samuel 7.
Yes.
Important
All
passage.
right. Yeah, very, very important. Okay, so that is a key area there of understanding, because that has always intrigued me. Mm-hmm. Right? What is the current understanding of that promise? Because that's a very important promise that was made, because the expectation is, the Lord said it, the line of David will not be cut off. It will continue to go on for eternity, right? Mm-hmm. And also that
we still sing a song. We say David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kayam. It's one of the songs we teach the kids in Hebrew school. It means David the King of Israel, is alive and forever, right? I mean, it's an important part of our theology.
Yes, very much so. And I think that is a very beautiful promise, and the expectation that is still there. I believe that's actually the point, the key point, as you stated, that will be the diversion for a Christian and a Jew, especially based on my reading and my studying. For us as Adventist Christians, that key juncture of 2 Samuel 7, and the expectation, as Adventists, we still live with a great sense of expectation and anticipation as well. We are expecting Jesus to come.
Right.
right? To come again, hence Advent, you know, his return. Now, yes, the key point of difference there is we do see him as a Messiah, right? That came, left, is doing a work, and is coming again, right? But we do share with the anticipation of soon he will come, he will establish his kingdom here on earth, as we will live together in unity. Now, the eschatology, you know, how he will do that, when he will do that, there might be some differences there, but I tend to try to seek the commonality. Where are there areas that we have in common? And I definitely see that in common. Right?
I do too. I think ultimately all of religion is about yearning for a better time, right?
Yes.
And burning. I mean, look at the world right now. I don't need to tell you.
Oh, yes.
I mean, the world is look. I'm sure you're giving the same sermons I'm giving. Is in a pretty terrible place at the moment.
Yes.
I mean, you know, people struggling, and think about how hard it must have been 100 years ago. I mean, we take for granted we can go to the grocery store and grow groceries. 150 years ago, people were starving, growing, you know, trying to feed their family, and so there was always holding out hope for a better future and yearning for a better future, and I think that's what all religion has in common, is we want to try to give people a sense of hope. So yes, I think in some ways, whether you believe the third temple is the state of Israel, as I do, or whether you believe it is a physical third temple, we all hold out hope that we can build that better future together. It's really you know, some Jews actually talk about the Messianic era. They don't talk about a physical Messiah, but they talk about the idea that perhaps someday, you know, if we all earn it and we all work together, right? There's sort of the two approaches to the Messiah within Jewish theology. One is things have to get so bad that the Messiah comes because things are so terrible. And the other one is, well, if we all just work together and we figure it out, we can all usher it in. And I don't know if that's common in Christianity too, but
yes, there are, and there are a variety of views concerning that, even within Christianity. Yes, you're correct, and that one there is also present in Christianity as well.
So I think we all yearn for that, whatever that third temple, that unity of humanity, that sense where my house will be a mountain for all peoples, right? To come and to worship together. I think we all hope and pray for that.
And I believe that yearning is what God has put in humanity from our very creation. You know, in the image of God creating them male and female, there's always this call to come together for unity, right? And I think it will be there until it is fulfilled, because with sin in our world, it creates divide. It creates this yearning, right? We yearn for the presence of God. And I think ultimately that is what the Lord desired from the very beginning, when he says, let them make me a temple so I may dwell among them. The Lord is still, he himself is still yearning and anticipating that reunion, that uniting. And I think that's the beautiful thing, where the yearning that we have for each other. And I think the pandemic even emphasized that even more, because we were then forced to separate, right? So separation was a prescription in order for our health, but really ultimately what we truly need for our overall health is really a coming together, a unity, a uniting, but not just, and I would add, not just a uniting of humanity, but a uniting of humanity with divinity.
I agree. And I will say, you know, we often talk about, as Jews, Sinai as being our most important moment, right? Where the Ten Commandments came down.
Yes.
And the immanent versus transcendence, right? In Deuteronomy versus Exodus. And I think in some ways the temple is the most, you know, we use it as an image, for us is the most immanent manifestation of God, right? In Deuteronomic literature, right? I want you to create a place where my name can be present, right? And I think that is so significant and so critical and important, because for us, what is a synagogue today? You know, yes, a Jew can pray anywhere, but this is the place where God's name is present, right? This is the place where wherever we look, we see signs of holiness, and whether it's a stained glass window that inspires us to move toward a holiday or observe a holiday, or whether it is a you know, meaningful ritual that you're doing together, naming a beautiful newborn child in front of the congregation, the community. Those are rituals that allow us to remember that God is present in our community, and perhaps we didn't even know it. To cite Genesis, that famous story with Jacob when he wakes up from the ladder and goes, wow, God was here. I didn't even know that God was in this moment. And I think I'm in full agreement with you. I think during the pandemic, we stopped having those things. And I think we really felt that lack of not only absence of us with one another, but the sense of God not being in our lives. We felt it, we experienced it. It was so painful to so many of us.
Yes.
And I'd like to think that if you're watching this at home, right, come on into church. No, just kidding. Or come to synagogue, right? Do what you're supposed to be doing. My point is, like, find a house to worship or to connect and to connect.
There we go.
That's what you got to do.
Yes, and I love that. I love that because ultimately that's what I like to share as well. That yes, because of the pandemic, because of what's been happening with the virus, many of us had to separate. But it really highlighted that for many, they felt dependent on a rabbi at the synagogue or a rabbi at shul, right, to really guide them in that, where their homes were never miniature temples in and of themselves. They weren't miniature synagogues of themselves. And I see it, and this one I'll highlight. I think you will appreciate this. The Shema, Deuteronomy chapter 6, where the Lord says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, He is one." But then He calls them to share within their homes, right? This is upon your heart, the tablets of your minds and on your hands, right? Where the words of God should be in the home, where each home should be a miniature temple. That if you're not able to come to Shaul, if you're not able to come to the synagogue, your home is the first place where, at least within your immediate family, you will not necessarily feel that dearth, that loss, at least not immediately, right? Because you can come together with your family.
You took the words right out of my mouth. That's literally what I was going to say, is that, within Judaism, we use the phrase mikdash ma'at, which means miniature temple. And that's what our homes are. And so many of our rituals at home are things like, even our Sabbath rituals for Shabbat. And I'm not sure what Seventh-day Adventists, but we light the chandles, we have the challah bread, we drink the wine, right? We turn our tables right into miniature temples. There's this great custom. You salt the challah. Why do you put salt on top of the challah? Because that's what they did with the korbanot, with the sacrifices. It was the same thing. So you're reenacting, in essence, in a way. I remember you're laughing at me once. I once went to Mass. I had never been to Mass before. Okay. I remember, I'm like, God, they're going to sacrifice something. I said, oh, that's the point. Now I get it. I see the image. I'm like, I'm going. And my point is that we do that at home too, in our own way. Each of us in our own ways. But it was no substitute. It's not the mikdash. It's mikdash ma'at. So it's not the temple. It's not the synagogue or the community. But nonetheless, yes, you can turn your homes through acts of holiness and prayer and ritual into mini temples.
Awesome.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
Awesome. Hello again, everyone. I hope that you were blessed by that interview that was shared. Today's episode was a little bit different, a more intimate sit down as we went on the interior, behind the veil, if you will, experience of understanding the Jewish understanding, the Jewish perspective concerning the temple. Now, you did hear that the Rabbi Dorch, that he does believe different from many of us as Seventh-day Adventist believers concerning especially Jesus Christ. I wanted for us to understand and to hear the difference of perspectives that exists, and for us to see that Jesus is extremely important. Our understanding of who He is and His messianic role is very, very important. The promise that is stated in 2 Samuel chapter 7 ultimately is fulfilled in the life and the work of Jesus Christ. Without this understanding, our perspectives will be skewed. Our anticipation will be different. But today, I hope that you have been challenged. I hope that you have been intrigued, and I hope that you have a deeper, more yearning understanding of the importance of who Jesus is. The fulfillment of the temple, the fulfillment of the promise of God, what the Lord explained to David on that day when He says, I will establish a new temple. The new temple is not a physical edifice. The new temple is ultimately in the body He has prepared in Jesus Christ. More on this will be shared in episode 3. Episode 3, I do want to take a moment to let everyone know that episode 3 coming up around Passover weekend or Easter weekend for others, will start with our Friday evening service. In our Friday evening service, when we have communion together, I will dive even more into the significance of 2 Samuel chapter 7. And then ultimately, with Sabbath morning's explanation of episode 3. I invite you to come on out, join us then for episode 3. God bless you all.
You are